We've heard a lot of really heavy things tonight, but we're going to end on a note of hope. The reason that I'm here is because I want to shatter the stigma around addiction. And I want to annihilate this belief that we're somehow in this safe little bubble here in Forsyth County and we don't need to take any kind of action. Because I was just like you. I grew up here. I went to school here. My mom taught down the hallway. And I was the person that addiction wasn't supposed to happen to. So, to begin, I'd like to invite everyone, only if you're comfortable, to close your eyes and to imagine with me. I want you to imagine a high schooler or a middle schooler, a boy or a girl, doesn't matter. They make good grades. They go to class. They have a couple close friends. They're a little bit anxious or a little too attached to their phones, but you know, who isn't these days? They're creative. They're funny. They make you laugh. They're a dreamer, dream of going to a good school or making a difference in the world. Sensitive, talented, unique, and strong with all the potential in the world. Now you can open your eyes. Who did you imagine? Was it yourself? Was it your child? Was it a child you know? Well, this was me too when I was in high school. Right? I was all of these things, and I had an amazing family who supported me. And my parents had the drug talk with me, but honestly, the idea that I would ever do drugs was so preposterous to the both of us that the conversation was always really short and sweet. When I was 16, I was bullied, and to be honest with you, this really, really rocked me. And I developed an eating disorder to cope. But I graduated from high school from South Forsyth, and I made it through. I was an ECYD missionary when I was 14. I went to church every Sunday. I was a singer. I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. And the reason I tell you all of this isn't to just say, oh, look what I used to do. But it's to tell you that I was ordinary. You know, I had all this potential, and I am really super ordinary. So, what happened? You know, why am I the person up here talking to you about drugs? Well, I think it will help if we can go back to that first kid, that kid that we were imagining. And we are looking at that kid and we tell that kid, here, take this, or try this, or this is fine, it's just one time, everyone else is doing it. This one is gonna help you make better grades. This one is gonna let you have friends. This is gonna help you fit in. You're gonna be able to have fun finally. You're gonna be able to relax. This will relieve your social anxiety. This will help you to cope with all of this pressure. You need to know that these are the labels drugs come with. They don't come with some big red X on them that say, hey, this is gonna do some damage down the line. Kids and people in general don't do drugs because they're bad people. They do it because they buy the lie. And then we know that the disease of addiction takes over. So these good intentions, these good kids, these good things can go horribly wrong. And to be honest, this is what happened to me. Right? Like all dependent users, I started off with intermediate use. When I was 16, I was prescribed anxiety medication because I couldn't walk into school without having an anxiety attack. And I didn't start using them right away, but it taught me something. It taught me that I could take something and that it could change the way that I felt. And from there, I moved to drinking occasionally and smoking occasionally. And you know what? I had no idea. I didn't know that because there was addiction in my family, that I was 7 times more likely to abuse substances. That these drugs I thought were some kind of rite of passage had tripled, if not more, in potency over the last 20 years. I didn't know that taking ADHD medication my entire life had primed my brain, or that my young brain becomes addicted faster. I wish I knew that every year that I had not using substances would have been armor for me, a protection against addiction. I wish I knew that nobody is immune from addiction and that nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. And that once I started, I wouldn't be able to stop. But I'll tell you that it didn't take long for me to figure that out. Soon, what I started, it wasn't enough. So I had to do more, and I had to upgrade. And before I knew it, I was trying things I had never even heard of. Things I thought only existed on TV screens or in back alleys. And they were down the street. The transition from smoking to doing pills to shooting up was frighteningly easy. Addiction slithered its way into my life. And before I knew it, I was trapped in its coils. I was hopeless, nearly homeless, confused, alone, addicted, and completely empty. And I remember laying there and thinking, how did this happen to someone like me? But you know, I'm one of the lucky ones because my story did not end there. When I was 20 years old, I started my journey of recovery, and though I stumbled and fell, I fought. I'm forever grateful to my loving family who loved and supported me, and who drew really, really hard lines with me when I needed. Eventually, in my desperation, I decided to enter a Catholic community down in Florida called the Comunidad Chinacalo, where I lived for 15 months, a life of poverty, service, and sacrifice. And it was so hard, but it changed my life. Because when I was there, I finally learned how to be uncomfortable and not have to take something or do something in that moment to alleviate the way that I felt or make myself feel better. It's so empowering for a young person. I worked hard and I found purpose. The foundation of faith that I had growing up here at this school became something real, something that I could hold on to. And I discovered a relationship and an intimacy I have never experienced anywhere else, and I have looked everywhere else. But most importantly, when I was there, I discovered something really amazing. I discovered that I am somebody who is capable of love, of sacrificing for the person in front of me, of putting aside my needs to love you long enough to get out of my own head, to get out of my own thoughts. And I started to heal. And something shifted. And I changed, and it is absolutely 100%, without a doubt, a miracle. And I am happy to report that my life is nothing like the one that I described to you earlier. There have been consequences to my using, that's true, but I don't dwell on these things. I have an amazing job working for the Forsyth County Drug Awareness Council, where I'm working to prevent other kids and families from going through the same things that mine went through. My family is healing, and my heart is growing, and every day I continue to choose and embrace recovery. We are all in recovery from something. Whether it be drugs and alcohol, unhealthy relationships, spending habits, pornography, an eating disorder, perfectionism, a tragedy that has shaped us, a trauma that has rocked us. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole thing, it's that my story is not unique. It's the same as yours. It's a story about making mistakes and overcoming obstacles, about moving out of darkness into light. And it's a story about God, because God really likes a good comeback story. We are not powerless in the face of addiction. There's so much we're doing, and there's so much that we can be doing right now. So talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol, early and frequently. If you don't know how to have the uncomfortable conversation, you can visit our table and we have resources for you. I meet a lot of parents who are afraid that if they talk about it with their kids and it somehow becomes real, that it will alert them that drugs are out there and that they'll want to try them. But if your kid listens to music, or watches TV, or lives in this county, your kids know what drugs are, or they will know what drugs are. And they're going to talk to somebody about them. And I hope it's you. I also want to encourage all of you to lead by example. and to find recovery in your own life. Recovery takes courage and perseverance, and a lot of you, most of you, know this. But the result is real freedom, not only for you, and I want that for you, but also in the lives of your family members, because your children will follow. And lastly, I want to remind you to never give up. Because yes, there is this darkness of drugs that is on our doorstep, but by doing these things, you're here tonight, you can talk to your kids, you can find recovery, all of these things. You are the light that overwhelms it. So, have faith, okay? Embrace hope, and fight. Because my story is your story.